Boy don't got no game, but got his penmanship, got him looking like he's old man Iroh, and got Riz so good you'd think he's a prime Jiraiya. This guy no longer wants to be a hero, but pretty girls keep following him. If you like my recaps, then make sure to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Outside, a torrential downpour is constant. When a pair neared the rapids, the guy said, "This is a true man-eating river," as the melancholy air gave way to the strong stream of the waterway, giving the impression that today was like any normal day in the park. The woman next to him, resting on his arm, called for the man, naming him Sensei. She wishes to be with him forever. He agreed, and the man took out a long but tiny crimson string. In Japanese fiction, this rope signifies one's fate, with pairing it with a partner representing a destined future together. The two wrapped a rope around each other's wrists. The pair was plowed down by a truck-kun, because of course a truck would be driving on this narrow, muddy road on a stormy night. On this day, a certain great author and his lover left this world. The man woke up in an unknown sanctuary. The man showed little emotion and did not speak for some time. Looking around, he analyzes the room with the statue of an angel's. He supposed this was the world we go to after death, a place with a rather Western style. A woman's voice could be heard over an exquisite harmonizing music. But an elf woman who identified herself as Annette approached him and said that this was not the place where the dead were supposed to end up. She claimed that the recently departed were picked to come into this country that was full of strife and the approaching of a powerful darkness. Here in Zauberberg, he will grow into a hero who has to bring hope and light. Displaying little enthusiasm for what was stated, the man understood that, aside from failing in his double suicide of his lover, in addition to being taken to this weird location against his will, he was also transported there with an impossible task. He gave a little giggle, placed his palm on his head and said, "My life has always been a great shame." The woman pays little mind to the young man's problems and simply moves on, speaking without trying to comfort him. Annette warned that he had an urgent mission to fulfill, but sees a large pill bottle roll on the floor. It reads Calmotin sedative, and we see a happy-faced hero knocked out for the last time. A panicking Annette tries to use purifying magic to detoxify his body, as the hero had swallowed several sedatives. When he wakes up, he's a bit annoyed and instructs her that she doesn't need to do that, as he wants to leave this life behind, and she's bothering him. The girl is bewildered and instructs the hero as that he must rise and fulfill his mission to save this world. The woman fumes as she explains that he was chosen by their world for this important task, but he continues to gather the sedatives from the ground, slowly swallowing them one by one, while she yells at him about being selected, so he must fulfill his task. With little loss of emotion, he laughs sarcastically at her, emphasizing the word chosen, as it means nothing to him, as he didn't ask to be chosen for anything. Annette asked if he was visited by a truck, and he agrees that he was. She gets excited as she now assumes he will agree after hearing her. She explained that it was the otherworld selection truck, picks overly depressed people and sends them to another world, explaining why every isekai is about unhappy losers. She brightly calls it World Transfer Service, which provides people a way to redo their lives and accomplish their hidden stereotypical dreams. She continues her rant while sparking like she performed some miracle. Our boy is just chopping on these sedatives, listening. He isn't impressed. No, he's pissed and walks up and grabs her staff. The woman is slightly intimidated as he says the truck that hit him interfered with the happiest moment of my life, his crowing achievement of a double takedown. He asked the elf pope who is she to decide if a person is unhappy or not, taking out a cigarette. Internally, Annette cursed as this man led such an unhappy life that he wanted to eliminate himself and is mad that he gets another life. But she was sure he would change his mind when he saw his status, as without fail, every time a human was brought here and gained power, their greed would take over. But like every fantasy anime in the last couple of years, his stats are abysmal. The lowest she's ever seen, and she becomes worried, with a measly 1 point of life and is poisoned. She thinks that he's already on the verge of death, as this guy practically a walking corpse. She checks every corner of his body and all his resources to see if he has some type of hidden potential or stat. But much to her shock, he's a walking bum, as on him he has matches, cigarettes, sedatives, pens, and a notebook. Not stats or spell to speak of. Annette goes through rapid change of emotions. But our boy has had enough of this and gets up to leave while choking on his cancer stick. She's going to leave him to his fate, but stops him out of pity. Grabbing his wrist, she apologizes, as her world must have made a grave mistake, sending a person with no ability to live in this world, as even here he is not fit to be alive. Wow, she really sucks at trying to make a person feel better by her blunt words. The man turns to her, as this is starting to sound like his life that was full of failures. Looking at such a face, satisfied with the idea of his own death, she is stunned. As this man is truly different, she asks for him to stay, as he will die the moment he walks out. He can only smile and tell her again that all he wants is a place to die. It shows a much younger elf pope starting her job of sending otherworlders here. She always felt proud about her job. She was excited to meet the otherworlders, but she soon realized that she had to put on fake smiles and praise to people she felt were pretentious, arrogant, or had other terrible personalities. She realized her job was to give false praises to heroes to boost their egos. Rehearsing lines to make them feel better? Yeah, this job sucks. But she's found a man who can make her feel something again. Annette soon found herself running after the sensei to at least find a profession before leaving. But he turns to her with a smile and says with the most confidence all day that he was a born writer. When she hears this, her eyes sparkle and it appears like the man is glowing from a heavenly light. He says goodbye to the girl with the pretty ears and left for good as the sanctuary gate closed. Annette falls to her knees and understands now. As she is sure, with a red blush and eyes full of bliss, clutching her chest, she is sure that this is the man she has been waiting to arrive. The depressive writer reads the old-fashioned signs pointing two different directions, but he didn't understand a single thing written on the direction signs, as if that weren't enough. He had no doubt that he would never find a cafe around out of nowhere. Some loud internal system alerted that the guy discovered the landmark Great Plains of Erston, earning him 5 experience points. The loud voice gives him a terrible headache directly into his mind. He tells the voice he doesn't know and doesn't care, but to stop talking inside his ear. But the system then announced that he had leveled up to level 2, using a noisy heroic background music. He instantly hates being here. Sensei hears a scream and sees a death tree holding a girl hostage, and she begs for Sensei to save her, as she believes he's an adventurer. The tree now entangles all around her body, and she begins to pant intensely. Why do tentacle monsters always act sensually? Meanwhile, our hero, of course, doesn't lift a finger, but just observes, noting that this world has people with animal features. Regarding that dying woman, have a charm that others don't. The girl gets angry at him, yelling for him to do something. He ignores her question to ask if he can write a novel based on her. She is angry and tells him to save her. He decides to finally do something and stretches his arms up as if he's jumping to reach her, but alas, he cannot reach her. She is confused, asking, doesn't he have a sword or spell to save her? As he's about to respond, the death tree reaches out and grabs him, dangling him by his neck. After he's captured, the woman berates him for being so useless, while the writer politely greets her, seeing how they'll die soon. The girl finally gives up, as her fate will be sealed in a few minutes, as the death tree has a suction ability that drains the life force of their target. A yellow envelope, the branches of the tree. Hanging by his neck, this news excites Sensei, which makes the Catwoman mad. He looks at her with a darkened look, as he believes she's also excited to be dead soon. The mad doctor feels weaker and begins to smile and laugh, calmly saying goodbye, while the Catwoman urges him to stay alive. As she assumes he's dead now, she never would have imagined that her final moments would be so confusing, but she doesn't realize that a purple energy is making its way throughout the tree's body, poisoning it. She's brought out of her misery when the poison spreads all over the monster's body and makes the tree's head explode. She's dropped to the ground and sees the monster vanish. While Sensei laments not having died, the system announces that 300 damage was inflicted by the adventurer's poison. He tells the computer to shut up, as it's bringing him misery hearing its voice. The girl is able to hear the voice and is wide-eyed as the man made the tree absorb poison instead of their life force. The cat girl asks what his deal is because he pretends to be weak, but he's clearly strong. The man, still not registering that he's listening, pulls out his match and lights his cigarette. He laments on how he's failed to end himself 5 times now, but each time is unable to succeed 1 time. She hears his sad tone and doesn't realize why he's so sad, but is happy that she's alive. She thanks him for what he's done for her and, as a thank you, would like to let him live with her at her home, reaching out her hand so they can exchange names. He calls himself Sensei, and when the man feels his hand being pulled by the girl, he immediately sees the red string and remembers Sak-chan, this being the woman that promised to be with him forever. As Catgirl is about to say her name, he says, Sachan. She is mad as that's not her name, but each time she tries to say her name, he says, Sak-chan. He gets up to leave and she tells him that he's going the wrong way, but she angrily follows, trying to get his attention. Sensei feels that he now has a reason to live in this whimsical world, as he believes that she might have been brought here. With the red string of fate being his beacon, his goal is to reach her and complete his double elimination with his beloved. After the end credits roll, Annette prays at the altar of the chapel to the deities of this world. She prays that Sensei is protected and to see him again. At that moment, the sanctuary doors open. She excitedly shouts out to him and rushes to him. But her expectations are shattered as she hears the voice of another woman. She internally screams when she hears that he wishes to find another woman named Sak-chan. Sensei leaves after the elf pope doesn't have any leads on finding her. Catgirl tries to cheer him up and get him back to her place to rest. She reaches to touch his hand but is halted by Pope Elf's staff. In an older authoritarian tone, she calls the girl shameless for holding a man's hand in public. The Catgirl whines about how much that attack hurt, asking where she even came from. On the topic, the priest gets embarrassed, blushing while looking over at Sensei. In a similar tone, the Catgirl points and laughs at the girl for her crush on Sensei. The two get into an argument over her relationship with the teacher and his strength. When the elf hears that they're close enough that Sensei saved her from a death tree, the priestess calls her a little thieving cat. But Sensei tells the girls to wake him up when they've made it into town, saying he's tired and going to sleep in a coffin. He says goodnight to Annette-kun and Tama, much to the Catgirl's anger, since in Japanese, Tama means cat. Annette can only chuckle as he called her by her right name, feeling smug. The girl eagerly tries to carry his coffin to town. In the next episode, the two women struggle to carry the man who's inside a heavy coffin. Eventually, Catgirl loses her patience, yelling with her tail sticking up and telling Sensei to walk on his own, but there was no response. In a quiet voice, she questions if the guy is dead. Annette checks to see if the guy had died, but his status indicates that he is resting in peace, and Kat is annoyed by her phrasing. Since they were close to their destination, the elf asked Tama to help her carry the coffin again, which made the Catgirl complain once more that that wasn't her name, but she gives up and they continue. Inside the coffin, Sensei is resting peacefully on a bed of red roses. He dreams of having his beloved Sachan, swearing to find her again. Then they can rest forever together. The coffin lid opens and a bright light wakes him up, signifying that the group has arrived in the city of Roth. Sensei looks around as the world truly is a completely different world. The busy town sparkles in the sunset. While he's looking around, Annette informs him that they should head to the castle to see the king. As they go to get an audience, the townspeople question why there was a coffin in the middle of the road. The king is a small and stocky, wide-eyed old man who happily welcomes the travelers, with his name being Thomas. His daughter, the princess, is a very respectful-looking girl named Charlotte. The king offers the group accommodations in the castle for the night, which makes the two women happy to accept the king's generous offer. But he stops them, as there is a condition he has. He loves hearing pleasant memories of people's travels. Sensei decides to humor the man, offering to tell him of the time he spent sleeping in a coffin. By his aura, the king is frightened, wondering if he's being threatened. To take the focus off of this subject, Annette said that Princess Charlotte was very beautiful, and the king thanked her for the compliment and said that she would soon be married. Before continuing, he asked two men to enter the throne room. The sovereign said that there were two contenders for the princess's hand: Otto, the wandering minstrel of love, and the brave knight Gomez. The king explained that perhaps because of the demon king of Wrath's influence, monster activity had recently increased, and because of Thomas's advanced age, he couldn't handle this huge threat alone. As a result, one of these two would become Charlotte's husband and the next king. Sensei listens to this while eating his pill bottle like they're chips, unimpressed, while the two girls are happy hearing the talk of marriage. The king wishes to hear the traveler's advice on the matter. Will it be the fighter or the lover who will be suitable to be alongside the future queen? He says it in a grand and happy voice for dramatic effect, as the girl has not yet chosen which option she wanted. But Sensei doesn't know, as the future of the king's daughter and the kingdom as a whole now hinges on his choice. The thought process of Thomas is stupid, as he's just a stranger who had just arrived. Sensei calls Thomas a horrible tyrant king, saying he's not fit to be a king. This shocks the man, but Sensei feels that as a man who's not fit to live, who is he to judge another? And he turns to leave. On his departure, the two women humble bow repeatedly, apologizing for his words, deeming that his words came across as rude because he comes from another world. The king looks past what he said, as an otherworlder can't be expected of much, but Charlotte is entranced by the man. At night, the novelist gazes out the window of his room with a melancholic expression until Annette wakes up and asks if he was having trouble sleeping. He looks back at the window and says, in truth, he has never slept well. His comments make the elf look down, but she works up the courage to ask who Sakshan is. But before he could answer, the catgirl's tail pokes out from under the blanket, revealing that she had been sleeping on Sensei's lap the whole time. Blinded by righteous womanly fury, Annette rips the covers off her and gives her a powerful strike to the stomach. Upon waking up, Annette scolds the girl for resting on a gentleman's legs, while the catgirl argues that she was cold. Regardless, the elf can't overlook this. Tama accuses the elf of being jealous, which is why she was making such a fuss. In the middle of their argument, Sensei leaves the room. The night is tranquil, but creepy. While walking in the castle, he spots the princess on the balcony staring at the moon. She greets the traveler. The two call the river beautiful, but both for different reasons, and the girl is scared when Sensei says he wishes to drown in such an ocean. Charlotte questions if the man is so troubled that he'd wish to rest in such an ocean. But Sensei says that she's the one who's troubled. Charlotte is worried about her future and the fate of the country, confessing she couldn't choose between Gomez and Otto. Gomez is the most dependable soldier in the army, with all the support from the soldiers. And because of the faith that her father has in him, she believes that she should choose him. But on the other hand, Otto was her childhood friend. Whenever she felt depressed, the minstrel would find her and sing songs. She doesn't know what to do. The man laughs as, unlike himself, this girl is truly a kind and gentle soul who cares for her father. He's caused much trouble for his father and family members because of his way of life, but not once has he asked another person how he should live. Charlotte's eyes widen, and he leaves her with a message, to choose her own life for herself. The next day, the king summons the group of travelers, as Charlotte has made a choice. Annette believes that the girl will choose Mr. Gomez for the best future for their kingdom, while the catgirl is unimpressed and believes she'll follow her heart and choose the man who believes in love, as he's better suited. The king declares that she will stand in front of the man she wishes to marry and say her vows. She agrees and slowly makes her way over, beginning to speak her true thoughts. She asked herself countless times what she wanted, taking Sensei's hand. She declares that she'll commit to a double kill job with this man. This shatters her father's mind and catches the girl off guard, with the elf hyperventilating. Annette even faints, saying there is no God in this world. Charlotte explains that, as she had said the previous day, Otto sang songs to her when she was feeling depressed. But when she thought about it, she realized he appears almost every day making noise. Some nights she can't even sleep, as his constant playing is annoying her all night. He really just wanted someone to listen to the new song he was playing. You know, that one guy trying to get you to listen to his new mixtape. Also, she can't marry Gomez because the guy smells a bit, which shocks the knight. A desperate Thomas approaches his daughter and urges her to choose one of the men he offered her. However, the girl stands up to her father, turning to call him the fool here. She shyly yells at him for forcing her to marry a person without asking for her opinion first, as she doesn't even want to be married. In the end, no one here considered her feelings except Sensei. The man smiles, as he's realized now why she chose to be with him instead. The knight laughs, as the girl has a keen sense of smell, and Gomez reveals why he didn't have a pleasant odor as he removes his armor, revealing himself to be a minor servant of the Demon King of Wrath. The monster's initial plan was to ascend to the throne by marrying the princess and then delivering the kingdom to his ruler. But he didn't plan on the girl figuring out he was a demon from his smell. Sensei turns to the girl to ask if this was true, and she disagrees with the demon as she had no idea and only said he smelled a bit. The demon's sweat drops and tells them to shut up as he declares, "Kill them." The cat tries to wake up Annette as debris is about to crash into them, but the cat not only dodges the concrete that would have killed them, but then shows off her skills and knees him in the face. The soldiers rush in to defend their king but are soon knocked away. She confidently declares to play with him if he wants to fight so badly. Tama isn't bad, like she's bad if you know what I mean, but she's a level 14 martial artist. Otto declares that he will sing him a song as an impressive level 89 wandering minstrel. He plays a melody called Song of the Valiant Hero, making the cat girl think she was being empowered, but nothing happens. But Sensei is entranced by his new song, with the girl asking for his help. Otto provides background music for the girl to fight. The Minotaur attacks her with his horns, but she dodges and strikes the bull again with a cat kick, then a cat punch. Despite the initial advantage, the cat girl is hit by the enemy's horn, which is extremely strong. The Minotaur announces he will gather all his strength for the next strike. Sensei interrupts the fight by calling the monster a little cow and asks him to kill them first, as they actually wish to die. As the princess wishes to get rid of her foolish father, her father wishes to reach and grab them, and the cat girl protests the idea. But the Minotaur can only laugh, agreeing to grant them their wish. He will kill the king afterwards and then burn the kingdom down to every last citizen in the country. Charlotte begins to have second thoughts about her decision, but the man holds her tight, saying it will all be over soon, so they don't need to worry about those people. The Minotaur charges at them, ready to end their lives, but on the brink of death, Charlotte gives up on the idea and cries as she's not ready to die yet. Sensei turns to her, realizing he was right that the girl was much too kind for a princess. He pushes her out of the way, leaving him alone to his fate. But as she calls out to him, Annette wakes up, ready to cast a barrier of light with her staff. Erecting a shield, she declares that the man will not die as long as she's by his side, revealing she's a level 18 cleric. She then directs Tama to attack, as the cow has been pushed back. Off balance, she charges forward with a wildcat strike that looks like something out of Dragon Ball Super. The minion of the Demon King is sent outside the castle, destroying the wall and throwing him into the lake. With the battle now over, the two can let out the breath they had kept in. Tama decides to thank the elf for saving her, and Annette does the same. The two now have respect for each other. Behind them, Otto announces he will turn this friendship into a song, but Tama tells him to leave as he did nothing. While Charlotte watches the landscape, her father comes running to his daughter. He kneels before her and begs for forgiveness for not considering her feelings at such an important moment. In tears, the king implores the princess's forgiveness. She says that from now on, she wants to be heard regarding the kingdom's problems and her life as a whole. The two embrace lovingly, hugging and crying together. In a moment, all would find beautiful, except Sensei, who missed another opportunity to die. A day later, a soldier alerts his ruler that more of the demon forces have arrived near the south gates. The queen orders her royal guard to exterminate the threat, sitting on the throne with her crown and robes. She is now the new ruler of her kingdom, with her father standing behind her as an advisor of sorts. The soldiers exalt Her Majesty, Queen Charlotte. On the road, both girls can be seen dragging Sensei once more in his coffin. Annette comments on how the girl became queen at the age of 16. She's worried about her ruling, having to deal with the challenges of governing a kingdom and its people. Overhearing the conversation, Sensei says that this is the decision she made on her own, so there's nothing to worry about. He gets out to look at another castle, exclaiming again how dying women certainly are beautiful, but a woman who can stand on her own 2 feet has a certain charm as well. At that same time, the girls struggle to pull his coffin up, and Tama asks Sensei to walk on his own 2 feet then. But soon after, a hurt Annette brings Sensei on the brink of death to a chapel to be healed. The two manage to drag their extra pounds of sunshine a great distance away on the side of a volcano. Tama can't take it anymore as she's so tired but mostly hungry. Both of their skills pop up like their Pokemon, as Tama is level 15 with skills like Cat Punch, Kick, and Wildcat Strike. Annette happily agrees that she's hungry, showing she's level 19 with skills such as Cure, detox, and shield. Tama collapses and stops pulling. Like a cockroach, the sensei opens the coffin when he hears it's time for lunch. Annette gladly crouches down to offer sensei some bread. Still inside, he asks if the woman has any boiled tofu. Annette attendantly begins to write down the name of the food to look for it in the next town. Tana looks on, thinking if she can handle this, then truly nothing can keep her down. Annette looks at the map to study how long it'll take for them to reach Tama's hometown of Grum. She believes that they're within a few days of reaching the town. Annette asks to stop by the Zen temple first because inhabitants of other worlds arrive through one of the 4 temples in this universe and from there. Then they depart for the Demon King's castle. However, Sensei's goal is not to defeat the Dark Lord, but to find his Sakshan. So she surmised to visit the 4 temples to gather information. Tama is shocked, as it sounds like their journey could take them all across the entire world. Annette doesn't seem shocked, which worries Tama, as she's convinced that Annette is crazy. Elf Priest looks down, as the truth is, she just doesn't want Sensei to face the Dark Lord, because she fears for his safety. She admits that she's been a terrible guide for other worlders. Since she sends them on dangerous missions and doesn't care about their life, Tama changes her expression and deems this girl has it bad for our sensei. Elf is embarrassed, jumps up to defend herself. Sensei showed her the light when she had already lost hope in her dead-end job. Her confession is wholesome, but Tama blankly asks the priestess what will happen if this Sakshan turns out to be his lover. This ruins her mood, with the girl crying, as her other mission is to ask him to verify this. Tama smiles and decides to go with them, but only until her hometown. Annette sarcastically thanks her while looking away, as she'd rather be alone with the man. By the way, Tama wants to know if they'll be able to enter the temple since Annette abandoned her job. Sensei gets up to listen while smoking a cigarette. The elf assures her that the head priestess of the Zweiten Temple is a great friend. Moreover, she didn't leave her job without notice because she sent her familiar to deliver the resignation letter. As Tama is going to ask, the creature is biting Sensei's head, who doesn't show any outward emotion of discomfort. Tama washes the blood of the novelist while the priestess scolds her bat, who is always causing mischief. But the mistress becomes furious because the little bat didn't complete its task of delivering her letter. The bat, on hearing the letter, majestically spits out the presumed letter. The elf is silent, but soon erupts, smacking the bat, asking why it decided to come back if it didn't do its task. Sensei can't help but chuckle, and he names the familiar Melos. Making the creature happy and spinning in the sky, Sensei gets tired just looking at the bat and goes back to sleep, as this is a bother. While Annette tries begging the gods for forgiveness as she's left her job without advance notice. Suddenly, Melos panics and starts screaming, then quickly tries to wake Sensei up but gives up and flies away. The group is confused until a strong wind hits, and then a large red dragon lands in front of them. It looks at them, and the girls are too terrified to move. Dragons are the most powerful monsters in the world. The dragon roars in their face, but is stopped by a girl who calls it Ryuka. The girl in the tribal cloak walks forward past the girls to calm down the approaching beast. She then rubs the nose of the creature and recites some words in a strange language. Annette and Tama can hardly believe what they're seeing, so they ask who this girl is. But instead of answering, she emphasizes that there are many powerful monsters in the area, addressing them to leave soon. She notices the coffin behind the girls and believes that the group has already suffered a casualty. Tama tries to explain the truth, but Sensei bursts out of the coffin to ask if it's lunchtime yet. The two apologize, explaining that this guy is a bit eccentric and comes from another world. The girl's expression intensely darkens upon discovering that he's from another world. The Dragon Empress takes a moment to remove her cloak and decides to kill him, as her main goal is to destroy all other worlders. We see that this girl must be part dragon, as she has a long dragon tail with scales and other body features. The Dragon Empress's killing intent pushes them back, and everyone can feel how much more power she has. She lights a spell, projecting a ball of purple energy. The beam of light hits, but Annette conjures a shield that holds for a few seconds, but eventually the difference in power is shown. As the barrier is destroyed, when the smoke clears, we see they were pushed many feet back with a sizable crater. Tama is weakened, but Annette is face first on the ground. The two struggle but manage to stand up. The dragon girl slowly walks to them. When she's in front of the two, she looks at them. The look forces them to bow to her. The power makes them unable to move. Her eyes hold no mercy as a crest forms, and Annette has seen this before. She displays the mark of the Dark Lord of Wrath. The situation looks hopeless as the girl charges a finishing blow with no hint of mercy in her stare. Sensei seems to be unfazed by her magic and stands up, saying that this dangerous behavior needs to end. As her business is with otherworlders, not these two natives, he stands up to the girl and she has to look up at him. He declares that he's her opponent as he's ready to die. The girls are about to move in, worry for Sensei, pleading for him to stop. She says she understands, and with one hand swiftly impales his heart. Blood splatters everywhere, and his body coldly begins to slump when she retracts her hand. The girls are frozen as their lover has been killed. The dragon girl walks away, saying that her name is Waldilia, bidding the man farewell as he can finally rest. Overcome by shock, the girls collapse in pain from their loss. Despite her final wishes, Sensei says that she only stabbed him. He stands and acknowledges that the girl does have powerful hatred. He remembers the time he wished to stab someone too, trying to compare, but he only went as far as sending hateful comments on Twitter. The Dragon Empress is disturbed by the man and steps back. Sensei continues as he admits to losing himself to his intense hatred. With his bloodied hand, he touches her cheek as he can see much sadness in her eyes. As she smiles, wanting to hear what drove her to this point, Waldelia is able to recompose herself and calls for Ryuka, and the two flee as quickly as possible. While high in the air, Waldelia can only look back, palming her cheek and asking who that man was, as heavy rain begins to pour. Later, in the region of Donnerstag at the Temple of Zweiten, the head priestess, in similar robes to Annette, opens her chapel doors. Outside, she sees that Melos has transformed into a magic flying carpet from Aladdin and has 3 unconscious people, with one having a hole through his chest. The priestess recognizes Annette among the 3 and runs to her friend. The elf grabs hold of her, yelling her name. Annette wakes up and she assures her friends she'll be found, but to help Sensei. The temple cleric isn't happy to ignore her friend, but looks at the man and calls for her minions to bring all the healing potions they have available and to summon every priest here. The next day, all patched up, Sensei takes advantage of the beautiful sunny afternoon to drop by the market and take a sip of poison, much to the worry and fright of the street stall owner and Tama, who questions him after he just made a miraculous recovery. He replied that he recovered so well that he actually felt worse, regardless of the nonsense the man spoke. Thomas slapped the bottle out of his hand, making it fall to the ground. Right then, Annette's friend is annoyed by him not being grateful for his new life. But Annette is used to this and thanks Yisha for her help, vowing to repay her. Yisha sharply says that she will, and their conversation continues. Next, Annette asks if she's heard of a girl named Sakchan. Yisha says that she hasn't. Annette obliviously ponders where the girl could be. Yisha is annoyed and is more concerned about why she's traveling with an otherworlder. She was shocked that her friend quit her job without any notice, but was secretly relieved as she always thought the girl was much too nice for the job. Slamming her balled fist against the table, she exclaims that she knows that all otherworlders are bums, so hopeless that their world rejects them. And here she is, tagging along with one of them. Otherworlders are known for their divine gifts to defeat the Dark Lord, but they do nothing but call them overpowered skills and use them for their own self-interest. Speaking of which, a chubby man who clearly looks like he's from America walks up, rapping to the 2 elf women. As he tries to rizz up them, boasting that he's Kotaro, the famous otherworlder, he offers the girls a fun time. Isha feels like this proves her point and tells her friend to stop traveling with the man and to get a job. They ignore Kotaro, but he interrupts them to show that his overpowered cheat skill is mass production. With it, he makes his American ancestors proud, as he can create infinite amounts of this world's currency, giving them a golden shower as he makes it rain on them. Kotaro talks in the first person and tries to buy them off to get into their pants. Isha has had enough of this and grabs a handful of money to rudely slap the rapper out of their conversation. He runs away like a TV villain, saying that they'll pay for this. Annette tries to come to the defense of Sensei, but Isha won't hear her out, as all otherworlders are selfish. Looking at his face, she is sure that's the face of a destructive person and warns that he'll ruin her if she stays with him, which she's kind of not wrong about, seeing as she quit her job for him, and he wants to off himself. Annette agrees, saying that Sensei has changed her life and is the reason she's who she is now. Speaking of Sensei, he shows up asking for her to buy a nice-looking poison he wants. While saying he's not a toxic influence, she shamelessly drops a bunch of coins the rapper left. Isha is sure now that it's too late for her friend, but she switches the topic. She wants to hear what gift this otherworlder was given. She assumes that, given their state, the group was easily defeated, so he must be weak. Annette calmly tells her friend that Sensei has no ability, and Yisha can't believe this. Despite this, The elf is sure that Sensei risked his life to protect the two of them from the wrathful Dark Lord. In shock, Yisha tells them that can't be possible because 7 days ago, another Otherworlder already defeated the Dark Lord. Meanwhile, in a dark castle, a man told the dragon that it could bark all it wanted because its master was not coming back. Sitting on the Beastmaster's bloody throne, the man said he had already dealt with him. Waldelia assumed her father was inside. In an inn, Tama can't believe that the Dark Lord of Wrath has already been defeated. Annette explains that Yisha got a call from headquarters with this message. Annette is happy about the news, as this means peace has been restored to Zauberberg. Tama celebrates but remembers the girl they ran into a couple of days ago, asking who she was. Tama recalls that 7 days ago Sensei was sent her as well. Annette remembers, as this was the happiest day of her life. Tama is confused, as this doesn't explain why Sensei was brought here when the problem was taken care of. At that time, Sensei tears up his papers and lays down on the ground. In his usual ghostly tone, he asks the girls to write on his tombstone. Here lies a man who spent his life tearing up paper because he can't write. Tama doesn't know what his problem is, and he explains that his creativity is gone. He wanted to recall his journey so far into a new work, but has failed to capture the essence of his story, driving him to despair. Rubbing her hands, Annette is desperate to hear how he described meeting her for the first time, but he shatters her heart when he reveals he didn't even write about her. While she's crying, he does recall how it felt to meet the other girl. When he met Waldelia, he felt a wave of creativity. He wonders why she was different. He prays that something else happens to excite him, but Tama breaks the news to him that she will not be doing anything dangerous moving forward. Annette decides that, given their new plans to fight dangerous monsters so Sensei can be inspired, they should walk around the town to shop. Annette has been thinking about buying some things for some time now. She drags Sensei to a weapon shop and gets him a giant armor set like the Minotaur's so he won't die. But the man doesn't even put it on properly and uses it as cover to sleep. Annette then leaves to keep shopping while he stays behind, and the local children crowd around him, wondering what he is exactly. Yisha happens to pass by and is startled by the creepy-looking man. Sensei explains that he's here to get some inspiration in the city, and Yisha, taking advantage of Annette not being around, decides to talk to Sensei in private. She is convinced that because Annette befriends people easily, she is too trusting and wishes to now help Sensei. But she believes that the man has nothing to offer and will only drag her down, so he must agree to stay away from her. Sensei laughs, as Annette is happy, and Yisha can't decide what makes her happy or force her to leave his party, as only Annette can decide what to do with her life, since she's not some caged bird. In the middle of this conversation, the rapper is surrounded by big red wolves, drawing everyone's attention. He says that the man in front of them was created by the heavens above, pointing to a man named Suzuki. Calling himself an Otherworlder, he reminds them of the news that the Dark Lord of Wrath was killed by a champion like them. Hearing the news again, the people begin to cheer for their heroes, even though these people are not the heroes that saved them. Speaking again, he declares that this peace was brought to them by Otherworlders, so that means they owe it to them. Suzuki announces that from now on, the Otherworlders will be in charge, as the great era of heroes will begin. Naming himself the ruler of this town, the people obviously disagree with these arrogant people, letting their power get to their heads, as they weren't in such a position to need them. The rapper from earlier points to the elf girl Annette, as she was the one who disrespected him. Suzuki approaches the girl, questioning how she could go against a hero who had brought peace back to their land. He places his palm on the girl's head and asks her to be a good girl, as if she were his pet. How will this end? Will Sensei get up to protect Annette, or will she end up like a girl in a hentai anime? Suzuki's power corrupts Annette's mind, which mutates her eyes, and she soon finds herself on her knees as she no longer has control over her body. Now with her soul in a cage, just like a bird, the rapper gloats about how she's fallen, claiming pure girls are the easiest to corrupt. She is now Suzuki's slave to do with as he wishes. Grabbing her face, Tama rushes to her friend, but Annette doesn't respond. She then grabs the rapper, demanding answers. He explains that she is no longer able to use her thoughts, as she has become a puppet to Suzuki. Hearing that it's permanent, she tries to punch, but is stopped. Calling her an alley cat, Suzuki says he's calming her mind, but turns her into a puppet as well. Yisha feels that Suzuki has done enough and declares that this city of Vale will never surrender to him. The villagers agree and are willing to fight. She remembers transporting him to this world, but doesn't remember giving him this gift, so he could use it for such evil. Suzuki doesn't care and wants to make this city his, deciding that if the people won't bow down to him, he'll just burn it and create a kingdom from its ashes. He soon has his fire wolves attack the civilians, and they run in fear, screaming. He also has them burn the buildings, killing many. Yisha goes in to fight, but is cornered by 4 wolves. Amidst the burning buildings, a controlled Tama finds and attacks Sensei, who happens to be happily sitting in the armor set. Sensei now sees the benefits of having Annette buy this, but eventually she's able to break through but is struck by the helmet. Sensei looks in a thinking posture, then puts a dangerous alley cat in a barrel with a note. In the next moment, Yisha crashes against a building. Sensei politely greets the man. She is still sure that all otherworlders are like this, as he not only uses his power for selfish desire, but is now completely corrupted. As if ready to tell a flashback story, she says Suzuki wasn't always like this when he first appeared in this world, as he was a weak-willed man. Feeling a note of inspiration, Sensei darkly writes this down, having newfound inspiration. Yisha questions his actions, but he explains that this is the kind of man who can motivate his story, asking where he is right now. Yisha tells him that he headed toward the church, as that's where he plans to make his castle. He tells the priest to look after Tama and leaves. Yisha is outraged and reminds him that he has no special ability. What could he possibly do? In the middle of the burning city, Sensei says that he has found his masterpiece. Yisha rushes over to offer her services. The writer is giddy, and Yisha doesn't understand how the man can be so carefree. Yisha doesn't believe they have a chance, as the man is another worlder, but Sensei pulls out a bottle of poison. Looking at it, she smirks, sure that, of course, the man has an elaborate plan, but he drinks it and comedically shows that he's all out. Yisha crouches down for back shots, as there's a door they can sneak into, but Sensei ignores her and walks right in. Upon entering the church, Suzuki sits on top of his wolf like a throne and confidently asks if Yisha requested aid from this man. Sensei comes to introduce himself, uncaring of the situation, asking if he could base a novel on the boy. Suzuki smiles, realizing he's a fan, as he wishes to write about the heroic tale of Suzuki, the hero who conquered another world. Sensei comments no, and Carefree says it will be about the man who gained more power than he deserved and fell to his own greed. He's interested in the human experiences that created such a monster. The rapper doesn't understand, but Suzuki has had enough and calls for his pets to kill the man who insulted the hero. When Yisha realizes that Sensei won't do anything to stop him from dying, she moves forward to shoot several wolves with light, but one of them snatches the cleric's magic staff with its fangs, eliminating her from the battle. Suzuki then gives the command for the other wolves to fire flames at the man. This time, Yisha is powerless, but as the fireballs get closer, Sensei deflects them all with the armor's helmet, flinging the flames back at the assailants and setting off a huge explosion. The helmet then reveals that Melos was deflecting the spells, since Annette had mentioned that the armor could deflect first-level spells. Kotaru starts to worry that these enemies are stronger than they initially appeared to be, but Suzuki reassures him that he still has a secret weapon, the giant wolf. Without any hesitation, the hero uses his favorite pet to bite Sensei, which indeed happens to bite him, drawing blood from the man's shoulder until, like last time, the poison spreads through the animal's body, killing it instantly. Sensei smiles, as dogs should always be kept on leashes, or else this happens. This does 600 damage, killing his pet monster. Meanwhile, Yisha heals the man, calling him unbelievable as he willingly poisoned himself for this reason. The rapper screams, running away while creating money to stop them. Yisha tells the boy to give it up, as his time as a hero is over. But the boy doesn't surrender, as he had one other pawn, his true trump card, revealing Annette. Giving her a dagger, he orders the girl to attack them. She begs the girl not to do it, but Annette charges forward with a primal yell. Yisha is emotionally vulnerable and wants to leave, as she can't fight against her friend. Sensei closes his book and claims that she's been looking down on Annette too much, as she isn't weak. Suzuki laughs at the fool, believing that his domination skill cannot be cancelled, as this woman will be his pet for the rest of her life. Sensei coldly tells him that this is her decision and he has no say in the matter. He stands with it against his neck, telling Annette that she isn't some caged bird, and the girl shakes. It splatters on the floor, but it's not. Sensei's liquid drips from her palm as she's waking up. Losing patience, Suzuki begins to lose his composure and commands the elf woman to attack that man as she struggles more. The reinforced command causes Annette to feel physical pain from the internal conflict inside her consciousness, as she remembers how she would rehearse her lines to greet the egotistical heroes. At that time, she realized just how trapped she was at her job, until Sensei appeared to say something that encouraged Annette, and she hits herself, freeing her mind. This shocks everyone, and Sensei catches the collapsed girl. He hands her over to Yisha, and the girl happily heals her wounds, now realizing she was wrong. Suzuki's mind can't process that his power is unbeatable and crashes out. Yisha yells for him to stop, and it's shown that he's planning on ending himself, but Sensei stops him. Suzuki doesn't know why he stopped him, and Sensei reminds him that he's in the middle of writing his novel about him, and tells a shaking boy his story of how he ended up this way. He finally drops his mask and reveals his true self, a scared child. As this takes him back to his past on Earth, where he was a weak kid who couldn't stand up to bigger boys and was endlessly bullied. Both verbally and physically, the boy was treated like a dog by the boys, but he also was unable to take his own life. Even when a drunk and barely walking man bumped into him, he was unable to even fight back or respond. Eventually, he was hit by the same truck-kun more isekais start as. Unlike his life on Earth, he thought that maybe he could get away from his miserable past, as he was now a great hero who had the responsibility to defeat the Demon Lord and save this world. Suzuki adapted to the environment, then was able to defeat larger creatures. Despite his hard work, the people of this town had bad things to say about him. They would whisper how he was a demon since he was an otherworlder like Isha. The people had low opinions about outsiders, and like his experience with the drunken man, someone tried to belittle him in public. With him now having power, he decides to use it however he saw fit. But seeing himself now, he's still too weak to even be a proper villain. Sensei is satisfied to conclude his novel based on Suzuki, a weak man who hoped to live as a hero in another world, but couldn't even become a villain due to his own weakness. Sensei titles the book No Longer Allowed in Another World with his own blood, and if he hadn't noticed, is the actual name of the anime. But he can't call this novel a masterpiece, so Sensei tears out the pages, creating a magical circle of flames. The ability he used is like his work, creative in the moment as he teleports the student back home as a reverse summon. Suzuki is sent back home to deal with his problems. The women are shocked speechless as Annette checks Sensei's status and notices that he now possesses the gift of storytelling. Yisha believes this might be a special ability only activated against otherworlders, which could mean that Sensei was brought to this world not to free it from the Demon King, but to save it against otherworlders who abuse their powers for self-gain. Yisha's opinion of Sensei completely changes as he's truly an amazing person who was sent to save this world from the biggest threat. Frustrated, Sensei collapses to the ground, utterly dejected after failing once again to write his masterpiece. In his mind, he wonders if he will ever find the person who will inspire him in the best way the boy did. In the middle of Vale City, the wolves that were once tamed by Suzuki are free and wonder why they're here, attacking people. They peacefully leave, not hurting anyone. Tama breaks out of the barrel, asking a similar question. Yisha gives Sensei what he wanted most, a brand new coffin with impeccable craftsmanship and golden details. Yisha talks to Annette in private to tell her to keep doing what she's been doing, as she was right about that man. As his journey will certainly be very difficult and painful, Annette thinks the priestess will prevent her from accompanying the man for this reason. However, now, Yisha insists that her friends stay by Sensei's side, precisely to protect him from the evils to come in this world. With newfound respect for the man, despite all that he's done, Yisha is worried about the boy, as she feels partly responsible for how he turned out. Sensei reassures her that whatever happens to him is his own decision, and we can only worry about our own life. Back on Earth, Suzuki is adjusting to life back home, removing himself from school to start his life in the workforce. Applying to a convenience store, when his boss asks why a high schooler is going through all this trouble to work here, the boy gets flashbacks, and the manager is kind enough to understand his life must be tough. Suzuki is hired and will begin work tomorrow. Well, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like the video and subscribe for more recaps.